Whoops, here we go again. It's so much fun to be on video looking like Mrs. Magoo. It's a great deal of joy to me. All right, here we are. Welcome, Jeff, Rosemarie, Annabelle, Marcia, Julie, Nilda, Jessica, Reverend Betsy. So glad you're all here this morning. The spiritual truth that I'm working with this morning is that nature abhors a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. Now, I'm not sure what Aristotle was thinking when he penned those words, but for us who are trying to improve our prosperity on this planet, it's great wisdom. Whether it's prosperity of money or prosperity of friendships, more passion in our marriages, prosperity in health, we need to create room for it. We have to create room for it to come into our lives, and honestly, we need to create room for it to leave our lives as well. I'm working with a concept of living a fulfilled life by studying the book, The Art of Abundance, 10 Rules for a Prosperous Life. Now, the first 4 rules are on YouTube. You can catch up with us if you want, because today we're going to go right to rule number 5. Rule number 5 is be in the flow. Be in the flow. Now, sometimes we think being in the flow is synonymous with being passive, but if that's our thought, it's incorrect spiritual thinking. Being in the flow takes an active, conscious commitment to understand and cooperate. It's not enough to just understand it. We need to understand and cooperate with the law of circulation. Being in the flow requires us to actively, consciously receive and give. And if you clog up either one, you're not in the flow. If you're constantly a giver and never a receiver, you're not in the flow. Conversely, if you're constantly a giver and never a receiver, you're not in the flow then either. Mother Nature has a great way of reminding us every time we take a breath of how the law of circulation works. When you take a breath in, you can try and hold it. You'll either pass out or you'll release the breath and take in a new breath. You have to give it back to the universe so you can have another breath in. You understand on some level, whether you understand it intellectually or whether you just understand it with every fiber of your being, there's enough air in the world for everybody. You understand that rare air is not just reserved for the privileged. It's not just reserved for the hardworking people or for those people who never make a mistake. Air is for everybody. It's here all the time. It doesn't care if you live in a prison or a McMansion. It doesn't care if you're a perfect parent or you're still learning the art of parenting. It's available to everybody all of the time. It's abundant, and it's available without judgment. We take in air automatically, and we let air go out automatically. It is the best example I know of how the law of circulation works, because it works for everybody, and everybody is always working it if you're still standing. The interesting thing is we give no thought to breathing. We absolutely know that air is available. So what if, with that much certainty, we knew that everything our heart desires is available to us as air is? I know it sounds like bubble-headed talk, and you know I hate bubble-headed talk. But what if we suspended our judgment just for a moment and acted like this was true? No shortage of friends, no shortage of health, money, just the right lyrics and melody for that song that you're writing, enough airplane tickets to exotic vacations, no shortage of forgiveness from that young adult child who hasn't spoken to you in a couple of years, no shortage of Caucasians who want to end racism right now, no shortage of jobs that pay well and allow you to do something that makes a difference in the world. An abundance of all of that is available to us right now. We live in an unlimited universe. But receiving the benefit of an unlimited universe is not automatic. It's by right of consciousness. It's by right of us learning how it works. Jones writes in his book, and the book that we're working with is actually written by a man named Dennis Merritt Jones, who was, still is, a retired Science of Mind minister. And he writes in this book, before you can manifest more of whatever it is that you desire, you have to first prove to the universe that you are capable of having it by developing a consciousness that affirms there's no shortage of that which you seek. See, to do that, we have to create a vacuum or a space. And the only way you can create space is by letting go of what you have right now and affirming that more and better is flowing to you right now. In other words, and this is probably the most important thing I'm going to say all morning, in other words, letting go is a prerequisite for receiving. So what keeps us from letting go? What keeps from creating a temporary vacuum? And I say temporary because remember today's spiritual principle. Nature abhors a vacuum. And it must be filled with something, either an abundance of more than enough or an abundance of not enough. Our consciousness will determine whether you have an abundance of more than enough or an abundance of not enough. What keeps us from letting go is fear. Fear that we don't actually live in an unlimited universe, or fear perhaps that we do live in an unlimited universe, but for some reason our good is determined by how worthy we are. So I've been saying this now for 22 years, at least 5 times a year. Breathing, worthy. Breathing, worthy. Say it with me. Breathing, worthy. Breathing, worthy. The universe doesn't care about your past mistakes. The universe is a present time consciousness only. So it is done as to us as we believe. If you believe there's not enough, there's no alternative but for the universe to give you not enough. And it's important to point out, we're not just talking about money and other material things, but also the intangible forms of that energy. If you want more smiles, if you want more hugs, if you want more respect, compassion, kindness, and generosity of spirit, it's here. But when you walk into a room, if you are wanting somebody to smile back to you, you got to bring the smile. You got to start out with a smile and pump the pump by extending it first. That is the law of circulation. Now, interestingly, I found out this week. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, says that giving and receiving are not the only requirements for an abundance consciousness. We must also use the gift. In other words, the law of circulation is not a 2-step process, it's a 3-step process. Receive, utilize, and then extend the gift. While receiving and giving are vital to an abundance consciousness, what happens between those 2 points is equally important. Mindfully using what it is that we receive moves that energy forward. Becoming aware of whether and how you are using what you have received will better understand how you might be impeding the flow of good in your life. So for instance, take your closet. Are you using all of the clothes in your closet, including the shoes? Or is it a little bit cluttered because you're holding on to those clothes? You know, you think, well, I better not give those bell bottoms away. They might come back into in style. Or I might gain enough weight to get back into those clothes that I thought I could That's a positive thought for me. Now close your eyes for a minute and just look around the rest of your house and observe where there's clutter in one form or another. The garage, the hall closets, the kitchen, the drawers, the refrigerator, the pantry, and everywhere else in your house. You can open your eyes. Metaphorically speaking, all that symbolizes how you may be resisting the flow without even realizing it. As a basic rule of thumb, if you have not used something in the last year, you're not likely to use it. If it's clothes, bring it to church next Sunday for our gently used clothes swap. If it's a tool or something else, donate it or sell it, but get it into the hands of someone who's in the receiving part of the law of circulation. To hold on to things that you're not using simply blocks the flow. So let me say it again. To hold on to things that you are not using simply blocks the flow. It's a reason to get rid of it. It's not just to tidy up your space, but it's to stop blocking the flow of all kinds of good that's trying to get into your life. It is a representation of your fear that if you let go, you might need it or want it down the line. But here's what prosperous people know. If you had it once and you gave it away and you decide you want it again, you can receive it again, because that's how the law of circulation works. Be aware of your mental and emotional attitude as you give things away. I once heard a minister say, it's time to collect your tithes and your gifts, but if you can't give it joyfully, he said, I would prefer you didn't give it at all. Now I promise you, you will never hear me say that. Not once. Because I can pay the church's bills with your angry, cranky money as much as I can with your joyful money. But, see, he wasn't thinking about his bills. He was thinking about his people. And he knew that if you pay with a tight grip, if you're taking that money out of a closed fist, it's a signal to the universe that the giver is not ready for more. The same practice of staying in the flow applies to money as well as everything else. But because money is a central theme in everybody's life, not just some of our lives. See, some of us might want new cars, some of us don't care about cars. Some of us might want more friends, some of us have enough friends and we don't want any more. But everybody uses money every single day. And it offers up a visceral example of how easy it is to go unconscious and impede the flow without ever being aware that you're doing it. There's probably no single thing in our lives that is more fear-based than money wrapped around, than our relationship with money. Money alone has no value. It's simply paper or coin. Or now it could be Bitcoin, it could be the newest thing is cryptocurrency. All of that represents a certain degree of energy that's waiting to be set free, which means it must flow and be utilized. Money is a wonderful tool for processing energy if it's managed mindfully. If it's managed poorly, it begins to bring a whole lot of suffering. And I have managed poorly in my life, money. And I can tell you firsthand, and I know all of you have stories of how it's brought you sadness to mismanage money in your life. We have to ask ourselves, is money our master or our servant? In order for money to serve you, you must use it mindfully and it has to keep moving. It's not to say that you shouldn't be saving or investing, because I do want you to save. And for those of you who have a discretionary income, I do want you to invest. I encourage everybody to do that every month. But we have to do it wisely. The operative word here is wise. What drives you to hold on to your money? Is it wisdom or is it fear of not enough? When you answer that question, you may know how your flow is being crimped. Dennis Merritt Jones says that he gives us a good example of how to tell the difference between fear and wisdom. More than likely, all of you have a spare tire in your trunk. It's a very wise decision to have one. However, you don't think of your spare tire every time you get into your car and turn it on for the fear that the tire is going to go flat. True wisdom is having a tire in your trunk even in the event you need it, but the fear of getting a flat tire is not dominating your every inch of your mind. Likewise, when it comes to money, true wisdom is in having some in reserve in the event you need it, but be certain the fear of scarcity is not occupying every thought you have, just like the tire in the trunk. You know it's there, and you forget about it. That's the kind of energy we want when you put money into savings. Why? Because the universe is listening to the signals that you emit. Deepak Chopra says this. He says, nothing is static. Because your mind and your body and the universe are in constant and dynamic exchange, stopping the flow, the circulation of energy is like stopping the flow of blood. And when your blood stops flowing, it begins to clot. It begins to coagulate. It gets stagnant. That's why we have to give and receive and utilize in order to keep your affluence growing, your prosperity growing. And again, I know that some of you, and I actually have a little of this feeling, you will notice that I'm a minister who doesn't come out here and ask for extra money very often. Occasionally I do. When I have to send the kids to camp and I don't have enough money to send the kids to camp, I might come out and ask you for some extra money. But basically what I need is for people to just give constant giving so we can pay the band and we can pay the light bill, we can pay the mortgage, have a little something, something for me. We have all that stuff covered. But here's the thing. Anything that we want in our life, whether it's money, because it's not just about money. It's about all kinds of things. I hear people say, I'm lonely. You can use rule number 5 so well to get new friends, to get deeper connections, to get more people in your life. You want that new project to just roll off your desk? Use number 4. Use the rule, be in the flow, give and receive. See, sometimes people are in the middle of a project and they begin to tighten up. But even just give away part of your project and see what flows back to you, because the universe is always listening to us and always wanting to know that we're in the game, that we're in the law of circulation, that we're giving, that we're utilizing, and that we're receiving. So let's take this message into prayer. Knowing there's only one process. That's the process that God has laid out. It's called spiritual principle. There's only one power. It's the power of love. And it comes in so many different forms. I give thanks for that. I give thanks for every breath I take, and I generously give it back out to the universe, welcoming more in. I give thanks for every dollar I give, and I give thanks for welcoming more back in. I give thanks for every smile I give, and I welcome more back in. For the Great One always says yes. I release this word into the law, and together we say, and so it is.